discovery. We embrace the unwavering belief that with passion, determination, and a spirit of resilience, nothing is truly out of reach.
I'm Chris Gocong. I'm a former NFL linebacker, and I'm here to tell you my story of how a CTE diagnosis saved my life, and the things that I've learned since then that might help you lead a limitless life. I was selected in the third round of the 2006 NFL Draft to the Philadelphia Eagles. Go Birds. Go Birds. I played there for 4 years until I was traded to the Cleveland Browns in 2010. I eventually retired due to an Achilles injury in 2013. I took pride in my physicality. I had always known that concussions can cause brain damage, but it was always like the boogeyman, because you might see broken bones or blown out knees on any given Sunday, but you never really see what happens to the players after the pads are hung up. What is CTE? Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. You don't have to say it with me. It's a big word which basically means hitting your head repeatedly. Turns out it's not great for you. Who could have guessed? I'd always assumed that CTE was only something that affected someone with multiple severe concussions, and I had only really had 2 or 3 where I forgot how to read, so I figured I was in the clear. Turns out I was wrong. Turns out it's not just the big hits, it's the mundane, repetitive hitting you go through thousands of times a season. Boston University recently published a study where they took a look at 376 NFL brains after death, and they found that 345 of those brains had CTE. That's 92%. Compared to the control study of 164 non-NFL brains, where only 1 had CTE. And get this, that single brain was that of a former college football player. Rewind to 2013. I was 29 years old, just retired from a successful NFL career, married to my high school sweetheart. Hi, Mandy. With a baby on the way. On paper, I had a successful life, but the awards, the achievements, and the money, it didn't fulfill me. In fact, it made me feel like I had more to lose. I was experiencing impulsiveness, short-term memory loss, anxiety, depression, migraines, etc. And the worst part was the neurologist couldn't even give me a definite diagnosis, because the only definitive diagnosis for CTE is done after death by dissecting the brain. Great. From fear of losing to losing fear. There are points in your life that in hindsight are huge branch points. This is one of those moments. To face a diagnosis like CTE is to face losing everything. I was afraid of losing my memories, my family, my autonomy, everything I'd worked for in life. The diagnosis was starting to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. My mental health, as well as body pain, and medications used to mask those symptoms became worse. The doctor says, it is what it is. I became vacant and angry at everything I stood to lose because I didn't want to lose them. Then it hit me. I was wasting right now. I was wasting the present worrying about the future. This flipped the script for me. I began to feel freedom, and eventually, I began to feel freedom in the acceptance that eventually, yes, I will lose everything, just like everyone else. So what did I have to lose? This became like a superpower. I came up with a plan. I would go out and learn everything that I'd ever wanted to learn. Because the worst that could happen would be no worse than what I was afraid of. Secretly, I had a theory. If I could put myself in a constant state of learning, I could rewire my brain. I could create new neural pathways and possibly slow the progression of CTE. So I put myself in new situations like this, sometimes uncomfortable situations. And I would learn all along the way and hopefully teach those willing to listen. But in order to do that, I had to shed all the labels of who and what I thought I was. Because as humans, we tend to define ourselves and our success in life as the material objects and material wealth that we collect. Till I realized, no, you're not your car, you're not your home, you're not your job, you're not the number of zeros in your bank account. When you identify as the material objects that you own or the material objects you want to own, you automatically set yourself up for suffering. Because try as you might, you will always lose those material things. Also, when you label yourself, you limit yourself. Someone might say, oh, I'm a creative. I'm not good at math. Or I'm a scientist. I can't dance. My wife's laughing because I can't dance. I'm not a scientist either. I realized that I had defined myself as a warrior. My entire adult life was spent in the gym, on the field, in the film room, with the single goal of making myself a stronger, faster, modern-day gladiator. And when I could no longer play football, I felt like I had lost my entire identity. When you label yourself as one thing, you fool yourself into believing you're only good at that one thing. So shed your labels. They say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time to do it is now. So plant your trees. Try everything. Learn to code. Learn new language. Learn to cook. Build something. Start a company. It doesn't matter. Do something that you feel that you would enjoy and could possibly benefit your life. And enjoy being bad at them. Sounds weird. Enjoy being bad at them. Fail at them. Fail over and over. Seek failure. Because the more that you fail, this is weird, the more that you fail, the better you become at the thing that you're failing at. And as a bonus, you become less afraid of failure. Eventually, after you've tried and failed at enough things, you realize there are three things. Things you're not good at, things you're good at, and things you enjoy. Now, when you find something that you both enjoy and are good at, go and do that thing. It's just that simple. Eventually, I found two things that profoundly changed my life: meditation and art. People who knew me as an artist, people who knew me as a football player would ask me, Chris, how in the world do you go from playing the NFL to becoming an artist? I don't know. Truthfully, believe it or not, I don't see much of a difference between the two because both include the state of flow that I was chasing. No thinking. In football, if you're thinking, you're slow, and if you're slow, you're going to be out of a job. I remember the first painting I started just like that. 2 hours had gone by, no thinking. I hadn't thought about my body pain or headaches or anything. Just a pure state of flow. So I continued to paint every single day. And not because I thought that it would go anywhere, I just enjoyed the way it made me feel. I never intended to show any of my paintings until one day one of my friends, he asked me to put a couple paintings up in his shop, so I did. And I had my first art show. Fast forward 2 years later, one of the pieces that I exhibited was reviewed by New York art critic Benji Su. A few months after that, I opened my first show in New York City at Kate O Gallery on 72nd and Madison. So for those of you out there feeling stuck or at the bottom or lost, I encourage you to find your flow state. I encourage you to put yourself in a state of constant learning and seek failure. And if you do this enough, if you're consistent, I promise you, you will eventually find your path. So yes, a CTE diagnosis saved my life. It opened my eyes to my true priorities, and it made me realize that all of this, being alive, is about finding what you love and pouring yourself into it. In closing, I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes from the great Bruce Lee, of course. Be water, my friend. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless like water. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put it into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Thank you.